everyone. Good evening. Matt Weber just said to me, he goes, you have your intro memorized. I found out at 5 o'clock that I was doing this, but never put a microphone in front of me. I like talking. How are you? I was, a little known fact, ordained a Roman Catholic priest 25 years ago in Springfield, Massachusetts, May 9th, 1987. The year prior to that, I spent as a deacon at Holy Name Parish in Springfield, Massachusetts, in a section called the X. There's two major streets in Springfield, Sumner Ave and Belmont come together. And there I met a lot of great, wonderful people. And probably one of the first couples that I met while I was there were Matt Weber's grandparents, Henry and Connie Martin. And then I was ordained. I spent 4 years in a parish in West Springfield, then transferred to Holy Cross Parish in Springfield in 1991 when Matt was 8 years old. Matt Weber was my altar boy. Can you believe that? I'm like Kevin Bacon. When Karen told me that she was having Matt Weber come speak, I said, oh, he was my altar boy once. She goes, yeah, right. So it gives me great pleasure to be here tonight and to be able to say one of the altar services from the parishes that I served at 100 years ago has made it big. So I'm very grateful. Matt comes from a wonderful family. His mom writes for the diocesan newspaper in Springfield, Massachusetts. His sisters put together a great prayer book for college students, which I have in my office if anybody would like one, and works at America Magazine, a little-known Jesuit magazine. And we'll hear more about Matt. So, Matt, I'm grateful that the altar server times in your life did not scar you and that it's allowed you to come to this place in this time. And so, welcome back to Boston College, Matthew Weber. How's that?
All right. So everyone, thanks for coming, and thanks to Father Devino. He probably doesn't remember this. As a little child, I would try and high-five Father Devino as he walked down the aisle leaving Mass, and occasionally during church I would paint pictures for him and draw things, altar places, and then would try and hand it to you as you were leaving. And I'm assuming you still have those. He still does. On his refrigerator. So I have the great joy of being here to speak to you all in this space. And I was here at BC from 2006 to 2009. And during those 3 years, this space, I have 3 distinctive memories. One, this is where I saw Chelsea Clinton speak, which was kind of cool. 2, this is when I saw Bruce Springsteen sit in a chair talking to people, which was cool. And 3, and this is a recurring memory, this is where I had my very long 3-year love affair with the Frips. Is that what they're called? The potato chip? Are they Frips? Yeah. Okay. So that's this space, and I think space has a lot to do with so much of the work that I do, and it's important to kind of get a sense of where we are today. And as I was coming over from Cambridge, I told Karen, I said, Karen, I haven't shaven yet. And she said, oh, don't worry about it. Scruffiness might look good. It might, you don't have to shave. But then I thought about Bruce being here and Chelsea Clinton being here and the Frips. I thought, I better shave. So I started walking around the campus looking for just a bathroom that was a one-person bathroom, so that I could shave in relative peace. And I couldn't find one. So I went and I scouted out 2 or 3 different bathrooms, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to have to do it in one of these 3 or 4 people bathrooms. And I took my shaving cream out, and I took my razor out, and I lathered up in this 4 or 5 person bathroom. And I just started to shave. And with each stroke, I kept looking behind. Geez, I hope no one sees me doing this. This is kind of strange. But then again, I wanted to look good for you all tonight, and I kept doing it. I was halfway done, and no one had walked in. I keep doing it, and no one walked in. And then I finished. And I was fully shaven, and I was done, and no one had seen anything. And I guess I thought, you know what? This could make a pretty cool intro for kind of how I perceive living a public faith life. In so many ways, as you'll hear tonight, I was in a Catholic bubble for like 26 straight years. Growing up Catholic schools, Catholic grad schools, and then boom, I left that. And for me, having left that bubble was sort of like shaving while always looking around to see if anyone else thinks what I'm doing is okay. Is this normal? Is it okay for me to be Catholic outside of the Catholic environment? Is it okay for me to be shaving in a 4-person bathroom on the BC campus? So there's an old painting in my parents' home, and it's this old Irish man sitting around a fireplace. And my mother goes, "Matt, that's the Irish storyteller painting." And this whole notion, I'm Irish, I have a German last name, but I'm Irish. And I used to ask my mom, what's this whole notion of the Irish storyteller? What does that mean? She's like, "Matt, that's how people learn. That is the best way to teach, through story." And that's always sort of resonated with me, these ways to inform. I can stand up here and I can, read off a PowerPoint or a sheet or something like that and tell you all about the things I've learned from the Catholic Church. Or I can stand in front of you today and tell you a few stories. And maybe hear a few stories from you all at the end. And I think that's oftentimes the most profoundly impactful way to learn about faith. You can type in Catholic Church on Wikipedia, or you can listen to me for 25 minutes. 10 minutes, we'll see. See how it's going. So let's back it up a little bit to October 4th, 1983, when I was born. And I was born in St. Francis Hospital on the feast of St. Francis. And they named me Matthew. And I was okay with that. I could have been a cool Frank, but Matthew was my name. And eventually when I got confirmed, I picked Francis as my confirmation name. And I had the most loving, or tied with the most loving parents in the world. We prayed at night, and religion was as much a part of us as the fact that we were American. We lived in America, we were American, we were Catholic. It hit all points of our life. I went to Catholic schools, was taught by the Sisters of St. Joseph. I feel like I was sort of like the last realm of students to go through and actually have a bunch of nuns teach me. And I liked it, and I learned a lot from them, and I got scared from them oftentimes, but I think that healthy fear was good growing up. And I graduated from grade school and high school, Catholic, all cool, all normal. Everyone I know is mostly Catholic. The first non-Catholic I met was what I called to my mother, "Mom, I just met a Episcopalian." Episcopalian? I didn't know what they were. And, this was good in some ways, but it was also kind of, like I said, a bit of a Catholic bubble. And I go, of course, to the school that my mother went to and the school that my older sister had gone to, Providence College, which is right down the turnpike there. And I loved it. I loved the tradition. I loved the Dominican priest there. I loved the faith life. I liked that going to church was cool. And the later on in the evening, the cooler you were. If you went to the 10:30 Mass on Sunday, you were super cool. My little sister goes, "I went to the 4:30 on Saturday." She was cool too, but. And all of a sudden I thought, you know what? I'm really digging these Catholic environments. I'm going to apply to Boston College to learn all about Catholic environments at the higher education level. Higher ed with a concentration in Catholic education. And I came here, and it was awesome, as I'm sure you all know, right? BC, everybody. Okay? I'm just trying to keep you guys awake. You got your lattes. And I got your agape. And in so many ways, I loved it here, as much as I've loved all of my other previous Catholic domains. Holy Cross Grammar School, awesome. Cathedral High School, awesome. Providence College, awesome. BC, they're Jesuits there. They're different than Dominicans. Awesome. Really cool. And I have distinctive memories of living my faith life out in BC, where it was, to me, completely normal. To be walking up, I had to park my car in the mod lot, and I lived in O'Connell House. That's like opposite ends of everywhere. And I'd walk up, and it'd be cold and stormy, and I'd walk up, and there used to be, and maybe there still is, right near the side of the road, a statue of Mary with a little hard kneeler, and I'd stop, and I'd kneel in front of her and say, how you doing, Mary? Had a good day today. Please help me get to my destination. I'm freezing. And I didn't think that was strange, because I'm on the BC campus. It's a Catholic school, and I liked it. And I went down to Biloxi, Mississippi with a group of about 20 undergrads, and we reflected on our lives, and we did service, and it was all part of the social justice component of the Catholic Church, which I thought was fantastic. And in so many ways, before I left to go to BC, some people who I knew, whose brother in the 1950s went to BC, had their whole wardrobe of a man from the 1950s who loved BC, and they gave it to me. And they said, Matt, walk with his clothes on the campus again. They didn't really fit me perfectly, but I did that. And I loved that he had gone to the same chapel and the same masses in the 50s as I was today, wearing his clothes and sort of paying homage to him. And then, of course, living in O'Connell House, my prayer life got really, really strong there. Because my first day that I started at O'Connell House, the man who hired me, Chris Darcy, said, Matt, that place is haunted. You will need to pray a lot there. And I remember distinctly being in O'Connell House, like the day or night before Thanksgiving. Everyone on the campus had left. None of the other house managers had moved into O'Connell House yet, and it was literally just me in this big mansion on this big empty campus. And the heat wasn't turned on or something, and I was freezing. And I remember waking up, and I was terrified that this was the night the O'Connell House ghost, or the ghost dog in O'Connell House, I had heard all the stories, was going to come and eat me or kill me or something like that. And I remember distinctly praying, Dear Lord, protect me. So pretty much the thesis of the past 5 or 6 minutes, however long I've been talking, is like Catholicism for me was pro forma, it was normal, it was just baseline always in my life. So then I decided to apply it to Harvard to do one final degree. And I get in, and I go over to the Harvard campus, and all of a sudden, for the first time in literally 20 consecutive years of Catholic education, in literally 27 consecutive years of Catholic environments, I am at Harvard, which is not a Catholic school, which doesn't really, in many ways at the graduate level, it's not overly Catholic. There's no crucifixes in the church, in the classrooms. There's no prayers before classes. People aren't discussing religion. And I thought, okay, I think I'm going to be slightly incognito as a Catholic. I don't really know how to, I've only been in environments where I've been in Catholic environments. And I remember my godfather pulling me aside one day saying, Matthew, come here. And he kind of grabbed me by my collar and said, you know what Harvard's logo and motto is, right? I said, it's Veritas, right? He goes, it's not what it used to be. He goes, it used to be Veritas, Christo et Ecclesiae, which they eventually ended up dropping the Christo et Ecclesiae, the religious element, and just focused on the Veritas. He said, Matt, Harvard lost the Christo et Ecclesiae. Do not lose your faith there. So, start up at Harvard, low key. Hey, you want to go to brunch on Sunday? Nah, can I go a little bit later? Okay, why? Going to church. Oh, going to church. What religion are you? Catholic. Oh, you're Catholic. Interesting. Got a couple questions for you. Why? You're 26 years old. You seem relatively normal. Why are you Catholic? And these weren't asked in any hostile way, or in just the sort of curiosity of an intellectual environment. And you know what? It was the first time someone had asked me that question. Sort of quasi-asked it during my confirmation classes. But here I am, 26 years old, and I don't know how to answer that question. Why are you Catholic? Habit? Inertia? Tradition? Because my parents are? Now, in addition to that more profound question, I got other questions. And these are questions sort of pulled from the headlines of what a lot of people perceive as the news of the Catholic Church. Matt, you know any of those albino villains from the Da Vinci Code? No. Matt, if your throat gets sore, do you gargle with holy water? Does that help? No, never heard of that. Another one, Matt, what author gets all the book royalties from the Bible? I don't know these answers. And the craziest one is, when you play chess, Matt, are you overprotective of your bishops? No. And you know what? I realized that once you sort of are a known Catholic entity in an area where it's not pervasively Catholic, you got to know stuff. You become the ambassador of the faith. And I realized I was sailing for quite some time because I had not been asked these questions and I didn't know the answers. And I remember sitting down one night, and it was either for a minute or an hour or a day. In retrospect, the time that I took to reflect on my faith didn't matter, and except that I came up with how I wanted to share the faith, how I wanted to be Catholic. The fact that I wanted to stay Catholic, even it seemed anti-intellectual. Even it was out of fashion. It was something for old people. It wasn't vogue. It wasn't sexy. You're at Harvard, for God's sake. Why are you talking about religion? You're young. And then I thought, what am I doing here? I'd originally applied to go to Harvard and to study educational television and to work on Sesame Street and to promote education through children's television. And I thought, I'm being asked these questions at age 26. What about the poor people who are asked these questions at 17 or 18? And their mom had dragged them to church all these years, and then they go off to UMass, and all of a sudden no one's dragging them to church at all. And if I can't answer these questions at 25, 26, 27, how are the 17, 18, and 19-year-olds going to answer these questions? Who are their role models in the Catholic Church? Who do they look up to? Are they priests? Are they nuns? Are they mentors? Are they youth retreat leaders? And I thought, geez, I got to do something about this. And it's over cliche to say, I followed the quote, be the change you wish to see in the world. But honestly, that's a good quote, and it's over cliched for a reason. It's a good thing to do, if you can. So about 3 miles west of here, east of here in Watertown, Massachusetts, is a national cable channel called CatholicTV. Goes out to 10 million people across the country. And I thought, who on this channel speaks to people like me? 18 to 35-year-olds. Who are the 18 to 35-year-old role models in the Catholic Church? If I was 19 years old at UMass and my parents weren't dragging me to church anymore, and I look around and go, okay, who's still going to church? And I go to the Sunday morning Mass and see a bunch of 80-year-olds. I might go, maybe this isn't for me anymore. Or when you're asked questions about the Catholic Church and it all comes down to condoms in Africa, birth control, and homosexuality, and those are the only 3 things that people focus on when they talk about the Catholic Church, and not every other fantastic thing that is part of the church. A prayer life, graces, hope, love, joy, community, the charitable aspect of things, the social justice component, everything that I'd experienced for 27 straight years. No one's talking about that. And I said, I want to talk about that. And I want to be a person for young people or old people to look up to and say, hey, listen, there's still some good stuff going on in the church, and someone's talking about it. So I emailed CatholicTV, no response, and I emailed CatholicTV, no response, and I called CatholicTV and got a voicemail message, and I called again, then I emailed again, and I finally got 1 month from that moment, a 10-minute meeting with the president and the general manager of Catholic TV. And I said, geez, I better not screw this up. I've got a month to prepare. I'm gonna do this right. So I put together 3 pitches, 3 different things of how people my age cannot tell but show how to share the faith, how to live a faith life today in 2009, 10, 11, 12. And I'd written them all up, and about 2 days before that pitch, I was nervous, and I thought, I can't just go in there with just a pitch. I need to have proof of concept. Not theoretically, this is what could happen, but this is what you can put on Catholic TV. Now, BC, I've been always stopping by the Mary statue on my walks up to O'Connell House. And starting at Harvard, I would often bike past the Mary statue to get home. And I'd often stop on the middle of the hill, get off, and say a little prayer to Mary. How you doing? My day was crazy. Thank you. Say Hail Mary. And I thought, that is not on the BC campus. That's on Market Street. And I'm sure people are whizzing by and going, who is that guy talking to? Is he on a Bluetooth? Is he crazy? No, I am praying. And people still do that. So I made a short 2-minute video kind of showing, reflecting, and taking images of that experience that I have on a daily basis. And I brought it into Catholic TV, and I sat down at this conference table with the president and with the general manager, and they said, what do you got for us, Matt? And I said, I've made a video that I think could help the church. And I pushed play, and 2 minutes later, with a little teary eye in one of their eyes, the president said, when can we have more? And the general manager said, I'll put this on today. So from that moment on, till now, literally 2 hours ago, when I went into Catholic TV to film the next month's show, I've been producing 80 to 90 weekly segments that have aired on Catholic TV and across the whole country called A Word with Weber. And I am referred to on blogs, the internet, and articles as the Andy Rooney of Catholic TV. Mostly because Andy Rooney and I have the same eyebrow length. That's a joke. Mostly because the way he expresses these slice of life, these little essays, is kind of what I do, but for the church. And so A Word with Weber goes on, and it goes out there, and people are watching. And about 8-9 months ago, I get an email from Loyola Press in Chicago. And they said, Matt, we like what you're doing on your TV show. Would you have any interest in turning it into a book? Now, at this point, I was hired by Harvard, so I'm working full-time. I was finishing up my master's degree because I had to go part-time. I was producing Word with Weber segments. I was consulting down in New York City for a charter school, and I was producing videos for the Harvard Business School. I was probably working about 95 hours a week, and I had arguably gained at least 15 pounds. Yet when someone gives you an opportunity to share your faith and to help, I couldn't say no, and I delayed my bedtime from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., and over the next 4 months, banged out this book called Fearing the Stigmata. And September 1st, it came out, and I've been going every weekend, almost every week, to a new place to talk about it, to let people know that the Catholic faith is still strong, that it can still be cool for young people, that the Catholic baby should not be thrown out with the Catholic bathwater. Yes, it's an imperfect institution. Yes, there are a lot of problems here, but there is so much good in the Catholic Church, so much good. And it's a shame that it gets minimized to 3 catchy headlines that hit every newspaper. And I was on a WBZ radio about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I said, why are people talking about this? And he said, Matt, journalists don't cover safe plane rides. We cover crashes. Scandal, 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 social problem, butler steals Pope's underwear, all this stuff. That's good news. That sells papers. Hey, hey, a 27-year-old guy from Harvard still goes to church. They don't care about that. And I guess I said, you know what? I guess it's my job over the next several months or years to tell the story of the safe plane ride. The economy plus one-way trip cross-country that lands safely and that makes someone want to get back on that airline again. And that's why I'm here today. And I'm so blessed to have people here. When I was a grad student here, I was 22 years old. And it's so profoundly wonderful to have people who I worked with, people who hired me here to help me today and just to support me along these many years. And if time allows, Karen, could I please read a chapter of the book? Or would you want to go right into questions? Because for as much as you now know about my stories, I want to hear your stories and how you deal with these questions. Or if you're worried about leaving BC and how you're going to live your faith life. Because it's not easy to live a public faith life. And I guess my book is hopefully setting examples of how it can be done. So with that said, I'm going to read one quick book, one quick chapter. It is a quick book. I don't know if this is good. This did not make the website or any of the press materials. They said, man, your book's a great toilet read. The chapters are short, so however long it takes to go to the bathroom, I guess you can finish chapters in that time. So that's not in any of the marketing materials. So this is a chapter that I call Rosary, Rescue, and Relocation. You guys aren't bored yet, are you? If you are, we can just go into Q&A. We're good, Karen? Time's okay? Sweet. So it was one of those nights. I just wanted to get home. The only thing between me and my bed was a 4-mile bike ride. The wind chill was -5 degrees. I was wearing a brown ski mask, and my ride was a purple girl's bike that my sister had bought at a yard sale about a decade ago. I started my journey home from a solid day's work at Harvard and was beginning to get into my groove. Off in the distance was a small, brightly colored object lying in the middle of the road. I rode past it but got a quick glimpse. It looked like a set of rosary beads. I kept riding and then had a moment of guilt. I don't know if it's Catholic guilt or duty to that which I believe is sacred, but I wasn't comfortable with rosary beads lying in the middle of the road. As I turned my bike around and forged backward into a typical New England wind gust, I thought that's rare just to see rosary beads anywhere these days, let alone to find them sprinkled on the side of the streets. Perhaps I was mistaken and my return trip would lead me just to plain old beads. I waited for a break in the traffic, darted out for the beads in the middle of the road. There they were, red plastic and of the rosary variety. I'm not accustomed to picking up things in the road, but the previous week I had picked up a $10 bill off the street with no problem. There was little, if any, monetary value in these cheap plastic beads, but for me they were packed with history and they were packed with symbolism. I thought back to my own set of rosary beads and my grandfather praying in the car on long trips to Maine. I thought of how she had a special, special bag for her rosary and treated these beads with the greatest care. After a moment's hesitation, I snatched them up and considered them rescued. Rather than keep them, I decided to drop them off in front of a church on my ride home. I chuckled at that. Why is it that whenever someone doesn't know what to do with something, they think, just drop it off on the stoop of a church? I dangled the beads over my handlebars and continued homeward. Rosary, rescue, and relocation does tend to build an appetite. And my cold, weary bones were hankering for a snack. I wanted to enjoy this snack in the warmth of my home, so I dropped by a convenience store to pick up a gallon of milk and some goldfish crackers. I walked into the store and caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. I wore a ski mask, had my hands jammed in my pockets. Glanced over at the store clerk, gave him a friendly nod and hello, hoping to de-escalate any fears of my appearance being triggering, literally. So with milk and snacks purchased, I headed on my way. There were about 2 miles left in my journey, including a slight hill upward, a busy rotary, the church at which I would leave the rosary, and a slight hill downward to my home. I hung the plastic bag on the handlebars and gripped tightly, feeling the straps getting thinner and thinner from the weight of the gallon of the milk. Up the hill I went, safe and sound, avoiding speed bumps and potholes that might jeopardize the integrity of the plastic bag. Approaching the rotary, I now had to merge with 3 lanes of oncoming traffic and then merge onto the home stretch. The bag handles were getting smaller and tighter as I progressed through the rotary. Cars were whizzing around me, past me, almost through me. Getting hit was not an option as I had milk to drink and rosary beads to deliver. I made it past the 3rd road and finally to the approach downhill. He's earning his money tonight. Then I approached and noticed that the bag felt suddenly lighter. I looked down to my cold hand that firmly gripped the straps of what was once a plastic bag. Glancing backward, I saw my milk and my goldfish crackers impersonating roadkill in the middle of the right lane. And for the 2nd time that night, I turned my bike around to retrieve that which I value and wanted to try and save. Like a cop inspecting a crime scene, I gingerly pulled up to the goldfish and saw they were relatively unharmed. The box was dented, but as my mother would say, that's why God make packaging, Matthew. I quickly snatched up the goldfish and went to assess the milk situation. She was hit. Flat on her back in the bike lane was an injured gallon of milk softly spraying a steady stream into the sky. It was as if someone had used a pencil to poke a hole in the gallon and then let the laws of gravity and pressure do the rest of the business. My initial thoughts were to block the hole with my hand. I was wearing gloves and also had a good 1/4-mile bike ride home. This was not a viable option. Assessing the location of the leak, I thought if I flipped the gallon upside down, the flow and stream of the leak would be minimized. And with the goldfish lodged under my armpits, my left hand firmly gripping the handlebars, and my right arm balancing this hemorrhaging gallon of milk like an irresponsible man holding a peeing baby boy, I continued down the hill. Milk was splattering everywhere, mostly on my coat and my face, and the wind blew harder. I kept gliding down the hill and was approaching the church. I actually said out loud, "Rosary beads, I think I'm gonna need you for the rest of the trip." So with the beads riding on top of the handlebars and my now squished goldfish and my exponentially less than gallon of milk, we coasted home. I jumped off the bike, opened the door, and ran the melancholy milk up to the sink as fast as I could, pouring the remains into every available mug, cup, bowl. I managed to save about half of the original contents. I put tin foil over the tops, found spaces for them in the refrigerator, and later that night, warming up beside the radiator, I never enjoyed a glass of milk more. As for those red plastic rosary beads, they still ride my handlebars. They serve as a reminder of what is worth saving, what is worth going back for. Thank you. So that's probably the best chapter in the book. If you buy it, don't be disappointed by the other ones.